Right, I see we're live. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mamluks podcast. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts Mort and Megan.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Megan,
Assalamu alaikum.
It's your first episode. How do you feel?
Is that my first one? No, I did one with you. Or
it's
you
your
mean
first? Like we're commenting on things.
Oh yeah, I feel pretty riled up.
Are you nervous? Are you nervous?
I was nervous earlier because of all the things I want to say, but now I just feel fury
So now basically you feel like how I feel.
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, that's hard.
Full of rage.
Getting a window into your reality. It's I gotta say,
It's liberating, right?
walk a day in a man's shoes.
It's pretty liberating though, right?
I guess.
But it's a lot to handle.
Yeah, the pressure's on. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. I am actually quite confident. I think one of the amazing things about getting married to you was that you are a performer and you are not a stranger to controversy and the public eye, basically.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this prior to getting married. Was that you're going to be experiencing all kinds of different. Although you're a performer and you hear criticism,
Yeah.
you're going to hear different type of criticism because these are more along the lines of your beliefs and like things that you have strong opinions about as a person,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when those things get challenged, that can like provoke another type of reaction.
Yeah.
It's not about like your performance and like critique that can actually help you become better, but these are your ideas are.
This is harder.
Yeah, these ideas make up who you are.
I will say, like, after the thing I experienced recently, I would much rather be critiqued artistically.
We're going to peel away the layers behind Megan.
Yeah, I mean...
Who are you really? Why did you marry my friend? What do you really believe? All on live YouTube. Step into the abyss.
There's stuff you guys don't know about me yet.
Ooh, is that a threat? No. Yeah.
Okay. So let's get the party started. Get folks listening on YouTube, help us out. Click on like and subscribe. We're almost at 10K subscribers. It's a monumental feat. People said that we would quit.
Never.
Yeah, we would quit before we hit 10K. 10K is probably the hardest milestone to hit on YouTube, according to most successful YouTubers. So help us expand. Tell your friends, and if your kids have YouTube accounts, subscribe them to us. But don't tell them not to listen to this episode because we're going to be talking about some mature themes.
Talking about gnarly things, and I don't want to have to not mention things. I think things need to be said. So maybe keep
every once in a while, like a couple
your kitties
times
for the historical.
Yeah, yeah. This one's probably not going to be.
I
for
already
that.
asked you which swear words were acceptable.
I said, we're generally clean in the house. We don't swear much.
You told me to remember my honor, though.
Yeah. Remember, you represent more than just your individual self. You represent an idea.
It's true.
You represent the house of the Mamluks.
Yeah. Well, and also I will say my swearing became a lot better when I started wearing hijab. It just feels a little ridiculous sometimes to swear when you're wearing a hijab.
Can we give her a moniker like Lady Mamluk?
Yeah.
I like that, Lady Mamluk.
I do want a crown.
Yeah, Lady Mamluk.
You know about the...
You guys could have...
You know about the Mamluk queen, right?
No. Oh.
You know,
She killed everybody.
Shajara Dur? Oh, that's a great story. She killed her husband.
Was it a Betty Broderick type of a situation?
It's a wonderful story, but I think the TLDR version, the short version, is she basically had the Mamluk Sultanate. She was the leader of the Mamluk Sultanate. The Abbasid Caliphate, who was in Iraq, the Caliph said, "Hey, what's wrong with you guys in Egypt? Where are your men? Like, why do you have a female leading you guys?" So what essentially happened was that the Mamluks realized, hey, we need to get her married and we need someone symbolic. The thing is, Shajara was a powerful woman. She had a lot of like, she was like one of those alpha type women, you know?
Masculine energy.
She had like very, she controlled things. And
Do you want
people,
me to be more like that?
No, absolutely not. I forbid you to it. But so she ended up getting married to someone who of influence, but he was kind of meek and he
A little
didn't.
bit of a pushover.
Yeah, so she wanted that kind of guy though.
Yeah.
She didn't want someone strong and had the ability to get his way. Thing is, this guy, being the guy he is, he ended up having relations with other women because he's a person of power and influence, and he ended up taking another wife. I think. I think what happened, he didn't just like mess around. I think
He took a second wife.
he took another wife, and that really upset Seferagic because that made her look weak.
Yeah.
And so what she did was, she had her servants while they were bathing him. She had him murdered. Like she had him like shoved under the, those hot tubs that they had. The
Like
kings.
hammams type of a thing.
Yeah, they had like what you see in the movies with.
The
I'm
rose
sure
petals.
Yeah.
All of this.
So the servants like shoved him underwater, drowned him. They said, "Oh, I don't even know what happened. He just died." But they quickly found out the Mamluks. See, the thing about Mamluks were that, yes, she was powerful, but they were also powerful too. There was a good balance of power happening. So they were able to do some investigations, and they found out that from the servants that she instructed them to have him killed. And so Seferagic was tried, convicted, and she was killed. I think she was hung outside.
Wow.
Outside the court. But she
Is
was
this a warning for me?
But no. Well, maybe isn't it? Should that be warning?
Moral of the story.
The moral of the story is women.
Justice doesn't care about gender.
In Islam, women can be.
You can die.
They can be black widows. They can kill.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know what the moral is that
no, the moral being
toxic femininity is that the moral?
There is toxic femininity, and when it's caught and when you cross the line with your toxic femininity, well, you pay.
I think there's multiple morals. I think one of the morals is that if a woman is capable of leading, then that should be. Whoops, you okay?
I think he's trying to kill a spider.
He found a spider. We live on a farm. Whoa, we live on a farm. He's protecting me from a spider.
He's really
Mashallah.
stomping on that spider, though.
Thank you so much.
It was huge.
The way you jumped, I thought it was a tarantula or something.
He
No,
saved
it was
me.
like this big.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
And I know if that crawled up you or something,
I would
this show
cry.
would be like
Yeah.
Be over.
Well, let's all say, alhamdulillah, it wasn't a
Alhamdulillah.
mouse. It wasn't a mouse. Let's just say that.
Sim hates mice.
I'm terrified of mice.
I think
There's a lot of things you can
there's
draw.
so many things we could draw.
Yeah. So let's talk about what happened.
Okay.
Recently, I said, "Hey, Megan, you're going to be, gradually introduced to the team and our listeners, and you're handling a lot of the team member-related media, and so just go at it on Twitter. You're already handling Instagram. Go at it on Twitter. Get a feel for what the listeners think." So Megan's been on a tear recently, finding out about all these allegations and stuff. Me, Mort, Mahin, Sheikh Hammer, we don't care about this stuff anymore. We just it's not necessarily we don't care. We've just kind of been hardened by it and
desensitized.
It's not something that is a high priority for us. It's just terribly sad and tragic, but we didn't want to really engage with that content so much because it's a lot of it's hearsay and stuff. So I said, "Hey, Meg, go ahead. Have fun." And so she created her own polls, and I'll go ahead and talk about that.
So I found some of the allegations very interesting for, multiple reasons. Oops, did the sound go?
No.
Oh, okay.
But you might want to make sure the mic is right in front of you.
Yeah.
To turn it, yeah.
So I found, for obvious reasons, I found all of the allegations super interesting. Thanks, babe.
There you go.
And I was genuinely very curious. I do feel like you have a platform that is very meaningful to a lot of people. You have a substantial following, And I think it's important for us to recognize the responsibility that comes along with that. And also, I wanted to take the temperature of your following, of TMM followers. I wanted to know, what do you think happened? How do you feel about these allegations? So I formulated a series of polls, and they were based off of sentiments that I had heard in our community
regarding the
regarding the allegations and regarding the investigational reports
of two
figures recently, them being Osama Eisa and I think I'm gonna mispronounce his name, Fatih Seferagic, I think. Osama Eisa could be called a chaplain or an imam, and then Fatih is a very famous reciter. So, and there've been lots of allegations against men over the years. Obviously, TMM received so much flack for having Nouman Ali Khan on the podcast. So, in my opinion, it was very important for us to take the temperature of your audience, see what they had to say. So like I said, I formulated a series of polls, and the polls were based on sentiments that I had heard from our community, okay? So these polls were completely formulated by me. I wrote the wording of the polls. They were my ideas. Of course, I have Sim's permission to post these things. This all came from me, a woman, okay? A man didn't write these polls, and I'm going to read to you what they were now. And I'm also going to share what the results of the polls were. So I posted the polls on both Instagram and Twitter, and they were different. The responses were slightly different, but not too much. But because Twitter is where everything blew up, I'm going to share what happened on Twitter first, okay? So I said, we'd like to ask your opinion about recurring situations such as the allegations against Fatih Seferagic and Osama Eisa. We'll be posting a series of polls and would appreciate your response. The first poll I asked was, are you male or female? And we had a response of 62% male and 38% female on Twitter. It was similar to our Instagram responses. The second question I asked was, do you believe there is a systemic issue within our ummah of overlooking the abuse of women? Overwhelmingly, our audience said yes, okay? And I don't know how many of these people are actually followers, but 89% of the audience said yes. 11% said no. The next question I asked was, do you believe investigational reports from organizations like FACE are helpful or harmful? 79% said yes. 21% said no. Again, I want to know. I don't have a bias, okay? I have my own opinions, but I was legitimately curious.
Fact gathering.
Fact gathering, because this is a journalistic position that we're in, okay? So I'm asking questions here. I'm opening up a dialogue. I want to know your thoughts. Just remember that.
What is the number? I mean, I'm not percentage. How many people responded to these
Okay,
polls?
so they were in between 300 and 700 people per poll. Okay, so this 79% people said the investigational reports are helpful. 21% said harmful. The next question, do you feel our women of the ummah are adequately protected and respected? Only 11% said yes. 89% said no, okay? Next question. This is the one that blew everything up. Do you feel our community has hopped on the woke liberal Me Too bandwagon? 72% said no. 28% said yes. But what happened to this poll in particular was amazing. Amazing. And frankly, I'm embarrassed for some of these people. I think that they assumed that there's a bunch of right-wing, sexist, conservative, hateful men behind TMM or something. I'm not sure. But there were literal death threats because of me asking this question. I formulated this question. It was based on sentiments which, frankly, I don't even know if I agree with or not, okay? Based on sentiments that I heard expressed to me from many people. And I'm sorry, 28% is not a small amount, right? For people to think that, yes, people have hopped on the bandwagon. So even though that may not be my opinion, that we've hopped on the Me Too bandwagon, many people in our community believe that. 30% is not a small number. And the results were comparable on Instagram too. So the fact that, I mean, firstly, I just want to say shame on you, because we're supposed to be a people of intellect and dialogue, okay? That's our tradition. When you can't ask questions, that's so dangerous.
Hey, I want to know what the death threat was. I don't know why this excites me. Like somebody wants to actually kill me. This is cool. I don't know why.
Let me open this up.
I bask in hate, Megan. So I want to.
He's on his like third Clubhouse account.
No, fifth. I want to personally reach out to the individual and say, "Hey, would you like to meet for some coffee? I want to trigger you more. I want to explore the mind that you have, this simple mind."
Okay, so someone responded. This person's name is, their Twitter account is @Gresham2x, GRESHAM 2x. This ratio ain't enough. We need to take his life.
Okay.
This is his life, because they assumed a man posted this poll.
So I think first what we need to do is create a hashtag save Megan. Right? Because now they're attacking a woman. Whoever this person is, person X, has now made a death threat against a woman.
Yeah.
Hashtag me too.
Hashtag me too. It fits me too.
Me too. I'm in part of the team.
I'm so triggered, Mort.
No gender biases here. We're all gender fluid. So attack on you, on your gender, is an attack on me.
Yeah.
Right? Anyways, so hashtag save Megan, number one. Number two, I think it's interesting that we have about 300 people that were polled.
Yeah.
And I would say this much. I think Twitter in and of itself is a little bit of a biased place. Mm-hmm. For two reasons. Twitter has a habit of censoring people and banning accounts. Mm-hmm. So that would obviously affect the people, the exposure of this poll. Same thing with Instagram, right? Instagram has a very select crowd, so to speak. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I personally don't believe that like 80% of this or 70% of this ummah thinks that we're going in the right direction by signing up with the liberal camp. Yeah. I personally don't see that. Now, granted, that is anecdotal. Yeah. But likewise, the survey itself would be anecdotal based on the fact that it's on Twitter.
Yeah, it's impossible to not have it be anecdotal when you're doing something on social media, right?
Right. And the thing is, like, if you go to Pew Research and go around the world, they have a very different result about how Muslims feel as far as being conservatives or being more liberal. Yeah. Now, I think the idea here, though, is that even these terms, I think people use terms they can't define themselves. And I think defining terms is always very important. What is a liberal? What is right wing? What is conservative? Yeah. What do these terms mean to you? Yeah. And I think even that conversation is above a lot of these people's minds. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there were some critiques that I found helpful. One was you should not have made each of these polls standalone tweets, because I think something that happened was people read this one tweet and found it very inflammatory, and then ignored all of the other polls in which I asked questions that may have been viewed as more woke. Who knows? But do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think what they would thought, maybe it could be possible that someone may have actually even believed that Muslims have become more progressive, and I agree with it, but they probably thought the choice of words here's what they thought use is more that conservatives use against.
They thought we were antagonizing them by accusing their cause, what they're passionate about, the alleged misproprietary from various people in positions of power and leadership in the religious community. They thought we were mocking them by saying that, hey, you're being leftist and you're being woke, by kind of relegating them to that sector. They thought we were kind of mocking them with that poll.
That's exactly what they thought. Many people found it the wording to be very inflammatory, very degrading. People were like, yeah, if that's the bandwagon, then I want to be on that bandwagon. Instead of, and maybe in the past I would have apologized. I'm not going to apologize. I don't really care about your little lily white heart being offended by a very relevant question. And you don't have any idea, my background or where I come from. So, frankly, I used to be part of your faction and I'm not afraid of you. Secondly, the fact that you're more concerned with semantics and being right than actually looking at what's happening in the community and how people are actually thinking is terrifying to me. It's a grave mistake that you're making right now, because witch hunts are also real. And I believe that these allegations, they should be looked at. And I think that the investigational reports have value. That's my personal opinion, and I may disagree with Mort or even my own husband. But I want to know what everyone's thinking. Yao Law, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. I think that's part of the problem. I don't know how you feel, Sim, but with a lot of people that enter these spaces, whether it be Clubhouse, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, they are comfortable putting comments and ideas out there, but they're uncomfortable with the responses that challenge them.
Yeah.
They're uncomfortable with those responses, and their knee-jerk reaction is to label people. You're this, you're that, or dismiss them, like use ad hominems, just write the other side off.
Yeah.
Their main form of activism is through these two mediums. They're not like when we go to the mosque, we interact with our community members, we establish relationships. You've already been to one of our interfaith events, or not interfaith, but revert events, Meg. And we also we're involved with our community. The Mamluks itself is just one tool related to our engagement with the community. This is not where it ends. Social media is not where it ends. The process of dawah for these people, at least for all intents and purposes, this is a Twitter army, and they feel like if they band together on Twitter, they've fulfilled their obligation towards activism and bringing justice to the world. This is how they think. I mean, this is because it's a very lazy culture now. More kids don't even want to go out and play. They just want to sit on their tablets while they're playing Fortnite. They're getting into Twitter arguments and then giving death threats to little Megan here. And
right. No, I agree, and I think that and I'll be quite frank. Whatever I post, even on YouTube, like here in this show, and on Twitter or Instagram, whatever it may be, I don't come back and check the reactions. I could care less what happens on Twitter universe, right? You want to cry. If you're crying about it, like, I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And it's because we don't live there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, your activism has to be more than just a tweet and a post.
I mean, one thing I do want to bring up, this was a very interesting accusation. Everyone, and I think it'll be very interesting to hear what you guys have to say about this, but I want to say a little something about how TMM had Nouman Ali Khan on our podcast, okay? People were making a lot of connections between the polls and the fact that we had Nouman Ali Khan. And people, when I said, I'd like to know about your opinion about this, many people wrote back, well, we'd like to know about why you had Nouman Ali Khan on. And the fact that you are equating what Nouman Ali Khan, quote unquote, did or did not do with the allegations against these brothers, that to me is weakening the very thing that you're trying to defend. Because if that's not the biggest case of crying wolf, then I don't know what is. How you can compare a very rich and famous and intellectual person who's had a huge impact on the community. Where's your Baina Institute, by the way? Like, you're going to criticize this very rich and famous person. We know rich and famous people, they don't have the same moral code that we live by. And I'm sorry, that's a reality. And I don't think that he shouldn't be held accountable for his actions. But the fact that you're equating a man who had some bad flirtatious behavior and did a little, you know, maybe haram kind of woman stuff with drugging, raping, and stealing money. Allegedly doing those things. The fact that you're equating that, that's like you're losing the power of the thing that you're trying to protect.
There are a couple of things here. Number one, I don't, first of all, this whole idea of deplatforming. I don't support it.
Can you say it like this? Deplatforming.
You need to deplatform everyone that you spoke to that likes the Mad Mamluks.
Finger snap canceled.
Hashtag cancel the TMM. No, but look, the reality here is, unless somebody is saying something and inviting to something other than what our religion calls for, I'm not going to deplatform somebody. In my opinion, like nobody's people were mad that I brought Daniel Hakikachu on. Hey, I mean, that's my business, right? I don't believe in deplatforming. I'm willing to have a conversation.
Yeah.
In real life, when somebody messes up, I just don't throw them off the community.
By the way, how are you sharing the platform on Twitter, where Twitter is a platform hosting all these individuals you were against? But you're on that.
You need to get off Twitter right now.
Why don't you cancel
Nouman
Twitter?
Ali Khan is on Twitter. How dare you use the same platform? You are, validating his platform.
You're on Twitter, Instagram. These are
YouTube.
all platforms that are being hosting people that you hate.
That's an interesting point. They won't ever muster up the courage to challenge Twitter and say, how dare you allow the spiritual abuse on your platform?
Yeah, they won.
public...
They won. Like they had Alex Jones canceled, right? They had
but I think Nouman Ali Khan.
Right. But this is what they're trying to do. This is they've already thought about this logic. Like,
that is the next step.
That's why they've set that precedence with Alex Jones, and why so many people were so terrified. Like, hey, we don't necessarily agree with Alex Jones's crazy conspiracy theories, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should cancel him, and especially do a permanent lifetime ban on people.
And you know what though, and I'll be honest here. So we'll come back to that. Yeah. But number one is deplatforming is something I don't first of all subscribe to
in general.
So don't hold me to your standard.
So for example, you would think that Hitler should be allowed to have a Twitter account.
Yeah.
So
of course, if he says something on there that is inciting violence or breaking the law, then that's problematic, right?
How about the Dajjal though?
Yeah, let him be on that too. Actually, I'd love for him to be on there.
The Antichrist.
Yeah, I mean the Dajjal of Birmingham's on there. I mean, so
I don't know what that is.
That's our favorite.
It's an inside joke,
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what some of the British people call him.
I don't call him that. I
disassociate myself.
By the way, I don't call him that. Okay. It's just the nickname that people are familiar with.
Allegedly.
Right? Yeah, just like I call Amr the Blue-Eyed Devil, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just, allegedly. But anyways, point being is that platforms are platforms. Yeah. If you are going to, and just like they want to challenge orthodoxy in many ways, why would you then allow not someone to challenge your views?
Exactly. Right? Shouldn't they hold up to being challenged? And that's the whole thing about Islam, is that it holds up.
If that's the conversation you want, and you want to have this change it begins with having difficult conversations. Yeah. You can't just force people to change overnight. As a matter of fact, people that try to force change on people who are not ready to change or don't understand the change, they're likely to destroy the society and send it into chaos. And that's so deplatforming. I don't agree with. Number one. The second thing I find very ironic here is this here, is that when it comes to Nouman Ali Khan and what he allegedly did, or what they accuse him of doing, they were unable to, I think they had people investigate, and they tried to look into this. And it wasn't a case of like him using drugs or, trying to, abuse someone, by physically abuse them and punch them or hit them. These are very different things.
They are.
And when you conflate the two and mix them together, you're actually doing harm to the people who actually suffer physical abuse.
Exactly.
Who are actually drugged, who
that
are actually
we need
raped.
to know about for
we need
real.
to protect them.
Exactly.
Right? But when you lump them all together, people like me will begin to take you less seriously.
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. It's weakening their own cause.
Yeah. Well, here's where the tricky part is. It's terrifying the allegations that the accusers made against Fatih, right? Mm-hmm. Fatih's allegations are terrifying.
They are.
And the number of women is huge.
It is.
And it is mind-boggling to me that one organization is the funnel or is the gateway for all these allegations. They're like the gatekeeper. Now they have all these allegations, and we have to take their word for it, because this organization, FACE, is not someone who has been fully vetted by conservative or even just imams in general, leaders in our community, right? So we as Muslims have to wonder, okay, well, you may have some credentials in the legal arena to navigate these spaces, but you can't be the gatekeeper for all this information. If you wanna the spotlight on you, you wanna make these allegations serious. Yes, we know about women having the difficulty of taking things to court and fully prosecuting things, because especially allegations where you are accusing a man of intoxicating you or putting you under some kind of a mind-altering state where you would be abused.
Yeah.
Those are criminal felony allegations. And this man, at least from our knowledge, we don't know of that being submitted in the legal arena. And I doubt, because I think right now that Fatih is in Europe, and I don't think he's going to have any plans of coming back to the United States.
So I'll be honest, I don't even know any details about this guy. I've heard him once or twice on YouTube. I don't know details of his thing, but I will say just flat out, organizations like FACE, I question them from the get-go. I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
It seems to me they are opportunists. They see an opportunity to make a name for themselves, and so they jump on the bandwagon.
Well, I think women are angry. I think women are upset. I think women feel, with the westernization and the loosening of our values Islamically, I think women are increasingly subjected to painful situations that come from, in some cases, very hazy, murky, whose fault is it? Is it consensual? Is it not? I think women are upset. And I think that lots of women do feel that some of the abuses aren't being taken seriously, and that no one is listening to them. No one does see. And we see that in the polls, as anecdotal as they may be. Many, many men believe this to be true as well. But at the same time, darn it, I just lost my train of thought.
Wait, I want to ask you something when you're done with your thought.
Okay, Kayla, you're so good. Good job. So I do think that many women are feeling this, right? And I think that there is a collective anger, that it's a pain. We are in pain, and it's not just the fault of men, okay? It's the fault of Western feminism. It's the fault of capitalism, where we feel raw. We feel unprotected. We feel unheard. And that might be a bitter pill for a lot of men to swallow, but we feel it, okay? And that's real to us. And we want there to be repercussions for these men, and for we want there to be justice. But the thing is when that gets taken away from Islam and gets put into the pot of the Western woke movement, it loses its validity. And then you have, we should be seeking Islamic justice. We should be seeking justice through the legal system. But when you tie it all up in some of this vernacular and stuff, it loses its potency. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
The issue that bothers me, Megan, is not necessarily.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Does your tummy hurt?
Yeah, it does.
Oh.
Mort came out even though he was sick.
He's sick.
No, I'm okay. I'm good. But you know.
So, but one of the stories, Maggie, you were telling me was a woman who allegedly was invited to a parking garage by Fatih, and where
this is allegedly.
Yes, and he fondled her breasts and he caused some kind of bruising.
Yeah.
And then she was told that, hey, this is how I show interest in you.
Yeah, this is yeah.
So I mean, am I getting it right? Am I missing any details?
Yeah, that's exactly the story. And you got to look at who's failing who here.
Yeah, I mean, like, why is she going to the parking garage?
So I don't want to blame her.
All right.
I'm blaming our culture.
Yeah.
I'm not taking the blame away from Fatih.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily blaming her either. I'm saying she wasn't raised correctly.
I blame them both.
She was in a she's been being put in situations, okay? And this is the thing, as you know, we don't protect women anymore. We don't teach them how to protect themselves. And I can't control men. I can't do anything about them, but I can control myself and I can put myself in better situations. And I'm not saying that men shouldn't be held accountable. I'm saying that women are getting in murky situations. They're not protected. This is the problem. That's the real problem here. Not, men are always going to be rapists. I hate to say it. I'm so sorry. I think it's wrong. I want to hold men accountable. You're always going to rape women. You will always be rapists. I have no faith in you guys to not be rapists. I'm sorry.
All men?
Yeah. I think all men have this little seed inside them that can flip, that can grow. I think it's put into your...
No, I think men have desires. That's natural. But the fact to say
I'm not saying that you are all rapists. I think that men...
Well, I mean, in that case...
historically have never been able to control themselves across the board.
So here's the thing. If that's the case, then we can say all women have the potential to be this emotional mess that we have to deal with.
Yeah, I also think that's true.
But I think the problem with the generalities that we get into is where the conversation stops, because then people get offended, right?
Okay, so people can be offended by that.
I would say this much, though. Here's my problem. So I think the biggest problem we're having right now is we're afraid to say that women can be guilty. Along with men. Like, even right now, you're reluctant to say, hey, I'm not going to say she's bad. No, you're bad for doing that, and he's also bad for doing what he did.
You have a point.
Right? So I'm saying admit
That's
accountability.
Fair. That's fair.
And you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be super, sheltered. Everyone knows you don't go to situations where, as a person, where you don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Right. Like, for example, let's reverse situation. People say a woman should feel comfortable no matter where she's going. Doesn't matter no one should overpower her. Fine, I get it.
Yeah.
But there are places like me as a man that I walk into, or a place where I would go, I know not to go because I can't overpower the situation. I'm not going to go to certain parts of the city if I don't know somebody, because I can't have control of that situation.
Right.
So it's not this is just about being smart.
Well, one thing I wanted to add, I think, Megan, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think this is what you were trying to say. It might have come out wrong, but I think what you said, men inherently have the overriding sexual drive, right? And their ability to have the physical strength to overpower a woman
is always going to be there.
And that's going to be always, just like a woman who has had sex with her students, where we've heard that in America several times.
Yeah.
In an adult woman having relations with a child who's 12 or even younger, and that's considered rape because she has
the advantage.
The advantage, and and she has a physical strength as well too. And she has the ability to control the narrative in that situation as well, because she can say, like, hey, well, nothing happened. The kid's, making up crap. I don't know what's going on. He's imagining things. Nothing like that. Nothing of the sort happened. Yeah. So these are like...
That's it. That is what I was trying to say.
These are properties of control that are biologically inherent in men.
Yeah.
That people who are, who have their wits about them and they're able to control themselves and they know how to satisfy their needs in the appropriate manner by getting married or whatever, they they're able to satisfy their desires the correct way. But many people who don't, maybe they have psychological problems or other physical psychological trauma that may influence them to commit rape. They will have the unhealthy way of satisfying that physical need by overpowering a woman and satisfying their urge, right?
Yeah.
So
I do have a question, because my problem with this is that the people who do argue on behalf of rape say rape is not about sex, rape is about power.
It's
right?
absolutely about
no, because
sex
they say
most of the time.
because that's why a woman should be. Don't tell me a woman shouldn't be wearing this clothes, because it's not about what she's wearing; it's about power. So it's the same people that you're trying to make this argument for don't even believe that. Yeah, I'm saying this. The same people that you're trying to make this argument for don't even believe the notion that it's about sexuality. They believe it's about power.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's another problem.
It's a different framework.
But here's the problem that I'm having. They will say, for example, in this case, why did she go to a parking garage?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, he was in a position of power, and he spiritually, messed with coerced her into coming and convinced her. And this is the problem I have with this narrative. At the same time, you want me to agree with you and say that women and men are equal. Mm-hmm. We have the same abilities. We have the same way of looking at certain things, the same outlook, right? So why couldn't you apply your brain the way a man would in that situation and say, listen, he wants one thing from me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can't claim that as a weakness if you're trying to be equal.
Right.
If you believe you're equal, there should be no difference here. Right? Because men don't, like, for example, if that was the case, right, this guy would be out here extorting hundreds of dollars from me and Sim and other people like this who would say, oh, I'm the imam, I have a spiritual power over you. I have so much over you. Give me a house, give me a car. Right? It would be the same for all genders. Right? If it's just about spiritual power, from how they're arguing it, right? What I'm saying is that if you want to be treated to be as equal to men, the ones that are, I'm not saying all of them. There are some Muslim women out there, and even some women who acknowledge the differences between the men and women, and they're saying, hey, this guy clearly abused his position, which I can agree with. Yeah. But there are women out there who say that men and women are equal. It's not about what she wears, or what. It's all about power. It's about this dynamics. Then where was her intellect in this moment? Why are we using her intellect as a weakness for her?
That's the thing, is it's not of course, the men fail the women when they rape them, right? But the thing that is failing women from the beginning is the upbringing, the culture, the integration into Western value systems that flagrantly prescribe the mixing of men and women, that flagrantly say it's okay to be alone with men, it's okay to wear this. Men should control themselves all the time. You can do whatever you want because there's not going to be any repercussions for that. Consequences and fault and blame are not necessarily the same thing, I would love a world where I can walk around in whatever I want to wear. I would love that world. Do I think it's fair? No.
Oh, but I see what you're saying.
I also, because of my religion, know that there are repercussions to what I do. And of course, a man shouldn't rape a woman even if she's standing in front of him naked. It's definitely, in the end, the man's fault. But women, we need to know how to protect ourselves. When did we become so stupid?
Yeah.
When did this happen?
I think you're making a good point here about...
And then we're not addressing that. All we're addressing is how these men are not being held accountable. And it's like, well, but we're abandoning women from the time they're born now.
Well, the issue is cyclical, Megan. Remember how we talked about how the absence of the male figure from families where it's single parents. So I've even talked to situations from so many parts of your life where had there been a male father figure who would have guided,
would have been so different.
Yeah, and these decisions as a father, as someone who is a caretaker, who is always looking at his pride. If I can borrow an example from lions, he's always making sure that everything is secure. He's always watching for threats and trying to prepare. At least the approach that I take with my daughters is I prep them. Like I give them situational
you
examples.
have to be frank with them. You're
But the
honest,
problem,
too.
though, is that there are families with fathers. The problem is that they're emasculating the men.
Oh,
They're saying that if you say these things, you're being oppressive.
Exactly.
And this is part of the poll. Going back to the poll, they'll tell you that might be a category where they'll say, oh, you know what? There's a discrimination against Muslim women, or the prejudice against them because a father will tell her, hey, listen, you can't be out longer than your brothers.
Yeah.
Right. Even though we get it, it's not fair, but Islam is not always about being fair.
It's not about being fair. It's about
equity.
the world.
It's equity,
about being
right?
Yeah.
I mean, and responsibility, meaning that yes, there's a responsibility that a father has, and I think what you're trying to say is a really important point. Is that yes, there are certain things that people should be doing, but in reality, the world is not that way.
And listen, I want to go on the record and say to any woman who's listening, I'm a survivor of sexual assault, okay? And I'm not going to go into detail, but it wasn't one time, and it was extremely gnarly for me, and it took me my whole life to work through. And I've been in so many situations in my life where my upbringing and Western culture failed me. And I still see how if I had had the support, if I had had the father figure, if I had had Islam, things would have been so different for me. I never want a woman to think that these experiences, which are terribly traumatizing, they can ruin your mental health for years and years and years, and they're inherited from our moms too. I never want any woman to think that this stuff, that I blame you or that your pain is being trivialized. But there's reality, and then there's Twitter. And I don't think that these movements are actually helping anything. I think that they're just twisting the problem, and what they're actually doing is they're keeping us from solving the issue and cutting it off at its root. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a lot of our leaders, people who have who are in charge of mosques, great Muslim organizations, I'm not going to name any. It's everyone's responsibility to. It shouldn't be FACE who's handling this. It should be a collection of individuals, people who we have put our trust in.
Yeah.
But these people, they're not. They're about selling the next seminar, the next course.
Absolutely. Amen.
It's all about capitalizing Islam and making money off of it, selling the ads and selling. That's why, just recently we were having a discussion with some advertiser, and we were going back and forth with pricing and so I'm like, you know what? I'm just done talking about this stuff because it just makes me sick. Yeah. This is one.
I would say this, FACE, if you want me to take you serious, put me on the board. Put someone who you despise of, but still a Muslim, but has a different outlook on certain things. That is willing to give the benefit of doubt to Muslims first.
Yeah, it should be a coalition. That's actually a brilliant thought, because it should be people from across the aisle. If it's we have to acknowledge.
Abuse happens.
Abuse happens, and not just abuse. We can't just say like, "Oh, well, take it to court." Yes, you can.
Not everything is provable in court, right? No, we understand. Yeah. No, I just want to be unequivocally clear here. We're not denying that people can abuse positions of power, and that's
and
not
you're
something.
You're not denying that they shouldn't be held accountable.
Of course, it should be.
Exactly.
No, what I'm saying is that, and I also affirm that these things are not necessarily proven by legal ways through courts.
Yeah.
Right. They're just not. They're not illegal, but they're unethical.
Right.
Right? And so, but we as Muslims have a higher moral standard. So for us, these people shouldn't be around in certain communities and spaces and things like that. However, just because you feel that somebody is wrong about something doesn't mean they're actually wrong. And no matter how much you try to, create these campaigns and war rooms about trying to just take down someone's identity, that's not how you go about doing this stuff. Yeah. You need, if you want this to be taken serious, it has to be done by a coalition, as he mentioned, that has people who have very different views about these things. If that's a powerful thing, if you can find people that are completely opposite that can come together and say, hey, listen, this person or individual or organization is wrong, and we have to stop it. It's powerful.
Yeah.
Right?
Meg, we were part of their live stream, right?
Okay, so
why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm somebody that I don't really have a strong opinion about whether or not Face is doing good work or bad work. I was just curious. I tuned into their live stream, and they were doing they were answering some questions about how they do how they conduct their reports. Why certain things aren't being taken to court, all of this stuff, why they kind of circumvent the legal system. And it was very unclear, very, very vague. And maybe they're doing amazing work. I believe that these women are actually working super hard. I don't think it's a very appreciated position that these women are in. So I'm sure that they believe that they're doing extremely important work. I mean, obviously they're making a big splash, and maybe in their opinion raising important awareness. But it concerns me how vague and how they feel like they don't really reveal actual facts. They don't reveal medical data because it's a violation of HIPAA. They don't reveal criminal information because it would have legal ramifications. It was very like, why don't you share this? Why don't you share that? Well, we can't because, and then it's like, how do you verify information? Oh, it's very complicated. There's a whole flow chart that you can see about how we verify information. And it's like, but who? How?
Do you know what this reminds me of? It's a logical fallacy, number one. It's appealing to authority. Trust us. We know the process. Don't worry about... you can't see what we're doing. It's too complicated for you.
Yeah.
But trust us because we're the authorities in this.
Yeah.
So trust us. And now, look, I don't doubt that these sisters, women, brothers, whoever they are, I don't know who they are. I don't even know their names. First time I heard this organization is till now.
Salem is
I
one
could
of
care
the
less.
big ones.
Yeah, it makes no difference to me. But what I'm thinking, I'm sure their intention is good.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure these people
it is.
set out with the right intention.
Yeah.
However, when you try to start something, it has to be driven by fundamentals and logic. It cannot be driven by emotions. If it's driven by emotions and things like trust us, how you side against women, the Me Too, all these things, right? The emotional slogans. You're trying to manipulate people, and you're doing exactly what these so-called wolves in sheep's clothing are doing. They say, trust us. We're authorities. Believe us. We're honest people.
Yeah.
We're doing this for religion, for your right. We're doing it for you. They're doing exactly the same thing that these men in power are doing.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, and a lot of times what happens is when you put a power like this in a select group of individuals, this stuff, like it's being done right now, it gets politicized, and people from different ends of the spectrum. One of the things related to a lot of politicians getting tanked by improper sexual abuse allegations and things like that is when the Democrats will try to find some dirt on a Republican candidate and try to get him to resign, creating the conditions for a better electoral session in the next electoral cycle, right? So when you create allegations that don't have much merit, you just kind of have to throw enough dirt on that person to make the public lose faith in them. It's a very dangerous weapon that you're carrying, and it can be used very irresponsibly to diminish people you don't agree with. You don't necessarily want to have, because people want to say, well, why would women lie? Well, it's not necessarily about the woman lying. It's about people who have certain agendas against a different party or organization or philosophical thinker or political thinking, what have you. People are always trying to find holes in their in the person they're engaging with, or the opposite person on the aisle, right, from the aisle. So when you want to delegitimize people, you can say, hey, Susan, you don't have much money. You're in probably some desperate situation. How about you say some allegations about this person doing something against you to some district attorney, and it just causes enough disruption. You don't even have to file a police report, or you just mention something to
don't even go to court,
an organization,
just leak it out.
just because you're not, because that's a felony. You don't want to get in trouble with creating a felony. You don't want to put a police report in.
Yeah.
You just make some allegations. So this is why it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
You completely change the balance of how justice is working.
No, actually,
in the
I would
country, right?
argue, Sim, that what you're making is a great point, and it's not so much as them coming to them directly and saying, "Hey, say this," but they coach them.
Yeah.
And they're actually coercing them into doing something that they didn't want to do in the beginning, and they're doing exactly what they're alleging these men of power or people in positions of power have done. They use their power or what they have, their advantage, to influence someone to behave a certain way.
Yeah.
And they're doing exactly the same thing when they're quote unquote coaching them.
Well, something to keep in mind, I mean, so let's assume, just for a moment, let's assume that that's not what they were trying to do. So, because I know they don't believe that what they're doing is bad. I mean, I don't know that. I'm assuming that they don't believe that. So
I agree.
Let's assume that this organization was created in response to communities, masjids, organizations not believing women's protests and still hiring these imams or these reciters, still inviting these people, not taking these threats seriously. If that was the case, what am I trying to say? So let's say that this is why organizations like FACE exist, because other people aren't taking these allegations seriously. Other people are still inviting these toxic people, okay? What else should we do? Because I don't know either. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
What is the solution?
What if not FACE, what else?
Right. So I would say the idea of FACE is not a problem. Accountability is not an issue. At the surface level, having a group that holds men or people in power accountable, it should be there. Especially considering that we don't have a central government or a figure, and we have to do this independently.
Exactly.
However, it cannot be made up of people who nobody knows and they just come out of nowhere. It has to be a diverse team of people.
Yeah.
Another thing FACE doesn't do is that they don't take any testimony from the accused.
Right. And this is Islamically
that's
unallowed.
problematic.
Yeah, I mean, meaning that you can't. I'll give you an example. There was somebody who had posted a link, and they were talking about one of these guys, I think it was Fatih. Some lady had posted Instagram, yeah, he did it to me too, alleged, all this is alleged. Someone did some digging, and it finds out that this is actually like a Lebanese Christian woman who, like, talking about eating pork and like a dog, and like it's just very strange.
Ate a dog?
She had a dog.
Oh, she had a dog.
She had a
But
dog.
she was eating pork, and she was like out there dancing, and just things that, and admitting that she was not really a Muslim, right? In some ways, right? I eat pork today because or something. She made some comment or whatever. My point being is, like these, at the very least, this is a fasiqah. Right? Meaning, and the Quran says when someone, you have to verify information, even from a fasiq. If you're willing to accept information from non-Muslims as well, I mean, without verifying, this is a problem.
Yeah.
What standard are you using? Are you using here's my problem with this. If you want to present an Islamic solution for what's happening, you cannot rely on Western tools. It must come from, meaning that with a Western idea, the approach, that me too, believe everything right away, don't question anything, you're automatically guilty. Right? Don't talk to the accused, you're guilty. And not go through the process that Islam sets forward. You can't claim to be an organization that has Islam or Muslims' best interest if you're willing to exclude the Islamic fundamentals and approach.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting point.
That's exactly what's at heart here. That you you can be an organization that is bringing people to justice, and is bringing accountability back to the community. That's not fundamentally wrong. But when you're not even embodying the principles that Islam has in regards to these issues, where you didn't even bother taking the testimony of the person who was accused, well then, there's a big problem with your organization. Fundamentally, you're operating on secular principles.
Yeah. So
this is why we people who are involved with major Muslim organizations in this country, ISNA, ICNA, CARE, MAS, all these major Muslim organizations need to work together in not just sexual violence and abuse and things like that. They need to work together to form solutions for the average Muslim. That's why many of these organizations are largely irrelevant to people. Don't even think about them. When half these organizations, Meg didn't even know about them until I told her about them.
I think I only knew about CARE.
Yeah.
That's the only one.
Another thing is, I'd like to argue as well, if you are really concerned about abuse and abuse of power, when people do have power, let's be honest here, right? Unfortunately, in this country, there is a power dynamics when it comes to divorce.
Yeah.
Women have more power in that situation than men do in most cases.
I would say now.
Yeah,
definitely.
especially. Yeah. And in terms of finance, children, many things, right? Even narrative, right?
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want to say, alleged in documents, and that can be leaked out to the public, even though they're not true. For example, if I were to get divorced tomorrow, my wife could then put out, he hit me in the court, in a testimony.
Yeah.
And that can be released to the court, and it's unverifiable, right? So if you really want to work on advocacy for not abusing power, also provide services for men who feel like they're being abused by a system.
Absolutely.
Right? Show that you're being unbiased.
Yeah.
Show that you actually have the interest of the community at heart. It's not only women that go through abuse. All the secular studies you're talking about, they also say that men are just as likely to go through abuse as women.
Yeah.
Whether it be financially or emotionally. Where is your outreach for this?
Yeah.
Just because men don't, and they know about from these studies that men don't talk about it. Because it's not okay to talk about it.
Yeah, you think it's not okay for women to talk about?
Right. So what I'm saying is that if you really want to have a cross-platform or engagement from multiple entities, you have to be able to represent truly what's happening here. If it's truly an abuse of power, highlight it in every case and then appeal to it from an Islamic perspective, not from a secular perspective.
And I've talked about this to other Muslims as well, and they brought up a really profound point as well. A lot of these Muslim organizations, major organizations, they operate on the same secular principles that faith would operate on.
Yeah.
And that it presents the fundamental problem that we as Muslims have in this country is that we pick and choose what we want to apply from Islam into our daily life, into our families, our organizations, our mosques. How many fiascos have people that we are close with that are associated with mosque boards, and how much of that behavior that we've heard of from these mosque boards is actually even remotely resembling Islamic behavior?
Very little.
So we fundamentally have this problem where our belief structure is not even completely intact, and we've completely have a kind of amalgam of various things that we want.
It's a hodgepodge.
We want acceptance in the community. We want rights, and we want some representation. And provide us a place to pray and stuff, and place to donate to the poor. And that's what Islam is all about,
And this is fundamentally the problem. And I say that, why? Then they complain, well, how come people like you guys, Sim, Mort, Muhammad, why don't you guys join the board? Because we don't see eye to eye on these things. Like, these are things that we don't agree to, that we have a very different outlook. The people that want sincerely want to bring the Islamic approach to the different situations, the board is not conducive for that, meaning that you'll be at a constant battle and you'll be forced out. So how do you bring change when people don't want? I mean, what he's saying essentially is that the fundamental, the groundwork of these boards is not to find the most Islamic solution for being a minority. It's to see how we can skate by without catching lawsuits, with still generating money, without alienating certain members of the community, while still retaining political ties and friendships. It's not about the essence, which is Islam.
Exactly.
To me, the point of all of this, the thing that this illustrates the most clearly from everyone's perspective, is that no one is safe when there isn't a caliphate.
Yeah, no.
Men are not safe. Women are not safe. Children are not safe. Our institutions aren't safe. And I know lots of people aren't going to agree with what I just said. Yeah. But when we take ourselves outside of Islam and we expect other systems and other paradigms and other cultures to stand up for us, we're all going to be vulnerable. We're all going to be disappointed. None of us are protected.
So I think as a follow-up to that means we have to be ever more vigilant about the groups that come up and who we trust and who we entrust to handle the power, because we don't have a central figure to watch over that. So we can't just support any group that pops up and has a nice name with it and a nice little jingle with it on YouTube.
Yeah.
No. You can have a wonderful PDF, you can have the great names behind you, but we want to see that what you're doing falls in line with what we believe.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, the Taliban is just not the caliphate, guys.
They're just the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan.
They only care about Afghans.
Whoops.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie. I mean, yeah.
They already have made deals with the Chinese. They've sold out the Uyghurs, essentially. And this is what I'm trying to talk about. Like, fundamentally, we as Muslims have forgotten the ability to sacrifice everything for what's right.
And to be fair, and I want to be fair here, okay?
Yeah.
I think people, and by the way, I still assume good about them. I mean, I hope they will change. I wish Allah gives them success. However, the thing is that we live in a very different world today. And the reason why I just want people to be conscious of this is not whether it be Taliban, Saudi, whoever it may be. The burden of being a leader and burden of dealing with what people have to go through that under your responsibility is very challenging. I can't deny that, right? But I think we shouldn't shy away from saying something is right and something is wrong, right? You can say, yes, we've done this. However, it's still wrong. I mean, we can't justify these things.
Yeah.
That's the problem, I think, where we fail as Muslims, where we begin to justify. Maybe we're weak right now. Granted, we don't have power. We're weak, so we have to make certain things, or we're compelled, whatever it may be. But this is not okay. Yeah. And I think the same thing should apply to groups like this, trickling down. That yes, you can't just say that, okay, because we don't have a caliphate, we create this group and we're imperfect. But fine, we agree with that. But don't excuse your mistakes. Don't say that what you're doing is Islamic and correct. Say it's your best attempt, and then take advice on how to fix it.
Change always starts with yourself, then to your family, and then society at large, and all at once. All together. You're not exclusive to just your heart. It all is happening, as we know from the Sunnah. The Prophet always worked on himself, the family, and society at large, all together at once. It's not the way how Jordan Peterson says, clean up your room first and then society next. No. Our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had everything laid out for us as best as possible for us human beings. We don't just focus on one thing and say, hey, worry about that stuff later. We worry about everything together.
That's
so our tarbiyah
is holistic.
Yeah. And also, just very quickly, the first step to your change is making sure to subscribe if you haven't done so, and like the video.
Any closing thoughts, Meg?
I just want to make dua. May Allah give us the guidance. May He protect the women.
Ameen.
May He protect us.
Ameen.
May we protect ourselves. May we teach our daughters how to protect themselves.
Ameen.
May we teach our son how to guard their lust, how to take personal responsibility. May we stay far, far away from this path that is leading us into places we have no business being in. Ya Allah, can we please not create witch hunts within our community? This is my prayer today. I really, I know that there's women listening to this that are angry, and I'm praying for you. I'm praying for myself. We all deserve to be safe.
Hashtag save Megan.
But just a small correction. I think Osama Eisa, the allegations against him, he He's not an imam. He was like a
chaplain.
I don't know if he was a chaplain either. He was like a Twitter. He was a celebrity in terms of
because he wanted to party till Fajr.
that was his, that's his username.
Yeah. I'm saying that if
Party
I
till
saw
Fajr.
somebody with that, I would just think he's a parody account. Like, why would you take someone with that name serious?
Yeah, but anyway, that creep.
Why are you calling me a creep? How do you know? I mean,
No, but
it's alleged. I mean,
look, there's people
I don't know the guy. I don't know anything. I'm just saying I don't know any details.
Our guy Mahin has boots on the ground in Ohio. He's from there.
I mean, I heard
close.
that he may have lied about his learning institutions like
Learning
that. But
yeah.
I mean, the allegations that I don't know if we can, because I'm assuming creep is tied to that. Like, that's creepy.
I think his ex-wife put everything up on Instagram.
Okay.
Her
Well,
name
I mean,
is
look,
Shamiyan. You
if
guys
it's
can read
true-
it.
if it's true-
Shamiyan.
Yeah,
if you want to read it.
If it's true, may
people should
Allah-
know. Yeah, people should know.
if it's
that
true, may Allah
I wouldn't want
subhanahu wa ta'ala
my daughter
give that
encountering
woman
that guy. I would-
solace and give her protection and give her a better life and bring him
Yeah.
to justice if it's true, right? But I think that if you truly want justice for, and this is my biggest advice here,
Yeah.
if you truly want justice and you want this nightmare to be over, go to the legal channels and get it done as soon as possible.
Yeah, but this wasn't a legal thing, right?
Hey,
With him?
if there's debt, that is a
She-
legal
she did-
occurrence.
she did-
You know what's
take legal.
wonderful
Okay.
about this situation, which I would never call this situation wonderful, but alhamdulillah, the sister, I think her name is Shamiyan, is getting some...
A GoFundMe.
Yeah, because she was left in tens of thousands of dollars of debt because
I think it was
of
like
this,
40,000.
a brother's alleged irresponsibility. So, you know, and I guess his friends have taken responsibility, and to me that's like really
Alhamdulillah.
Islamic behavior,
Yeah.
you know, so they're taking responsibility
And I just
for
wanna
their
say
friends'
this-
actions, alhamdulillah, and getting getting her some help, alhamdulillah. But, you know, inshallah, women don't need to be in this position in the first
Inshallah.
place.
And just one thing too, I think we've talked about this many times before too, is that it's not just this is not just about women. What that man did, this is a failure to be a man. It's failure
Yeah,
to have
absolutely.
rajula. This is disgusting. It's despicable. I mean, if this is true, these allegations and what happened in the debt, I don't know the details, but. And maybe we'll do a segment later on, Sim, but there's a problem with men today, with young men today who don't want to take responsibility.
Amen.
They want to be 40 years old, 35 years old. They want to stay in their parents' basement playing Xbox, tweeting, being the Twitter army, social justice causes. They don't want to start families. They don't want to take care of women. They want to have equal bills paid. They want, all this nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
That is an episode for an entirely different thing. We have to talk about that because men today, yes, we know why it's happening, but it doesn't mean you should let it happen.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself be emasculated.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll talk about that later.
We had a wonderful turnout, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Help us out on patreon.com/the As we were talking about earlier, don't let us become corporate shills where this podcast is filled with ads.
Fight the system.
And we want this to be like PBS, where you guys, PBS is kind of government funded, but we want this to be community funded. It should be your show. Don't let it be hijacked by corporate sponsors and stuff like that.
Maybe we can get the Aga Khan to donate to us.
The only sponsors I'll accept is Joe Bradford and Baba Ali.
Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them. I love those two guys. And they're great people.
They made the show, a lot of it possible because of their contributions.
So make a special dua for them.
Always remember halfdeen.com and what was that?
mywasiyah.com.
Get your Islamic will made.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Happy Labor Day weekend for you Americans, and for UK British people, sorry you had to work today. I don't know what to say to you, but we'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.